You all recognize the deity that Modi installed in Ayodhya. Very beautiful details of the form of Lord Ramachandra. Does this little girl have a mother and father? You better take care of your little girl. There she goes. Okay. Well, I wanted to share with you that I was in this photograph. This was a photograph on Ram Navami Day, 1975. This is the opening day of the Krishna Balaram temple. And as you see, there's a lot of devotees. You look upstairs on the rooftop. All the ladies were up there, at least a number of them were up there. And sannyasis and brahmacharis and grahastas. And it looks a little different today on the outside, but it's this is what it looks like. 1975, Ram Navami. It was a really fantastic event. If I have extra time, I'll come circle back and show this picture and tell you a little bit about the event on Ram Navami Day. It was really, really wonderful. Really wonderful. So there's a nice verse that is composed by Hari Parshad Prabhu in honor of Ram Navami. And I'll just read the English because of time. May the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, who broke the bow of Lord Shiva and whose eyes are turning into lotus leaf containers due to drinking the nectar of the youthful beauty of Sita, be ever victorious. Isn't that nice? Just composed for today, Ram Navami event. Very capable speaker, and he likes poetics. He's a kavi. So we're going to focus naturally on the appearance of Lord Ramachandra. And there's some events leading up to his appearance. Now, hopefully sound is going to work. And if it doesn't, I'll figure out what to do. But this is a verse from Sri Brahma Samhita, verse number 39. And there's some sound connected to it. And hopefully it's Now this verse was selected because it begins Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. There are many incarnations of Govinda, beginning with Ramadi Murtishu, and they're in this category of plenary portions, Kala Niyamena. So here's the translation. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who manifested himself personally as Krishna. This is Prabhupada's translation. And the different avatars in the world in the form of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. So Kala, subjective portions. So this is a nice painting of the Das avatar, 4 on the left, 4 on the right, upper and lower and middle. That's 12. 10, Das avatar, with Krishna as the center. This is a chart or a graphic description of another verse of Sri Brahma Samhita. If you can see a little bit, it's pretty small on your screen, really small. Is there a way to make it a little bigger? A little bit bigger. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so on the left margin, it's still pretty small. My screen is visible. This is another verse from Sri Brahma Samhita. Goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya. That's his nijadamni, his own dham, Goloka, because it's all about Govinda. So that's his dham, Goloka. Goloka Vrindavan, or Goloka Dham. Goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya. Then at the bottom, Devi Dham, and above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham, and above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, and above Hari Dham is Goloka Dham. That's another verse from Sri Brahma Samhita. But I'd like you to take a careful look. You see in the realm of Hari Dham, this is where the forms of Narayana reside. And above Vaikuntha, but in that same region, as the same gold star, there you see Ayodhya, meaning Ayodhya, in relation to all the other Vaikuntha planets, is the uppermost. Amongst the Vaikuntha planets is the uppermost, the topmost. And just below, Goloka. The reason for this is, there are aspects of Ayodhya that aren't found in Vaikuntha. For example, does Narayan have a mother and father? No. Does Ramachandra have a mother and father? They're eternal associates. And they appear with him, but they're eternal associates, etc. There's Madhurya features in Ayodhya that surpass or eclipse the Aishvarya feature of Narayana in Vaikuntha. I'll say it again. Some of you may not be familiar with this terminology. In Vaikuntha, there's the majesty or Aishvarya feature of the Supreme Lord, superlative, Bhagavan in full, all six opulences in full. Bhagavan in full. Narayana is also Bhagavan. And in that same realm, but above it slightly, is Ayodhya. Ayodhya because there's some beginning appearances of Madhurya or sweetness. Then that sweetness has the effect, when it becomes very prominent, that it eclipses or supersedes the appearance of the Aishvarya feature. And that's one of the bewildering things. It's also one of the beautiful things of Ramachandra's pastimes, on the one hand and on the other hand. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and on the other hand, he experiences emotions that Narayan doesn't know or doesn't experience, like the kidnapping of Lakshmi. Does that happen in Vaikuntha? No. The killing of demons, does that happen in Vaikuntha? There's no demons in Vaikuntha. But in Ayodhya, at least in the Ayodhya of this realm. So, the picture I'm trying to portray is, there's a sweetness in Ayodhya that is not present in Vaikuntha. The majesty equal. Sweetness, to some degree, it eclipses the majesty. So great personalities, just like we were reading in the Bhagavatam this morning about the Brahmanas, unto whom Lord Ramachandra gave in charity his whole kingdom, which was the world, the four directions, the four priests. And they gave it back because they knew him. They knew him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he knows them as his worshipable deity, the Brahmanas, as a king. The blend of worldly and divine, Ramachandra. So that's an Ayodhya, and then above Ayodhya is Goloka, or Goloka Dham, and the sweetness is so strong that many of the residents in Vrindavan, they don't have a clue. Supreme Personality of Godhead. Certainly that appears in his pastimes of this realm. So just trying to create a little bit of picture of who is he? Who is this Ramachandra who resides in Ayodhya? We find from Valmiki Ramayana in particular that there's an original Ramayana, at least our Sri Vaishnava commentators describe, there's a original Ramayana of 1 billion verses. That's a lot of verses, 1 billion verses. And Hayagriva, he rescued the Vedas, including the Mula Ramayana, from Madhu and Kaitaba. He's that form of Vishnu who finished Madhu and Kaitaba. So Madhusudana is another name. But he retrieved the Vedas. Of course, this shows a book, and there was no book, but it was sound, but it's depicting. And he returned the Vedas back to Brahma. So Brahma possesses. He possessed, and now he again possesses, repossesses the Mula Ramayana, and he, Brahma, narrated the entire Mula Ramayana to Narada. Then there's a scene in Valmiki Ramayana where Narada pays a visit. This is preceding we discussed it yesterday, this morning. When Narada visits Valmiki's ashram, Valmiki receives him very nicely, and he asks the question, who is that person who is the most perfect person? It exemplifies all the symptoms of ideal character, and in 74 verses, Narada summarizes the Mula Ramayana, indicating that Valmiki that Lord Ramachandra is that person. So Valmiki, receives these 74 verses as a nice painting. There's Narada paying him a visit. Next to him is Bharadwaj, his assistant, Bharadwaj Muni. And after Narada departs, you see in the sky in the upper right part of this painting, I guess you can see, it's big enough. He offers his respect, Narada departs, and he meditates on the teachings that he received from him. For one muhurta, he meditated on the instructions given by Narada. His question was, who is that perfect person who manifests all the symptoms of ideal character and so forth? So he went to the river Tamasa, and there he saw a hunter. This painting is depicting the hunter shot a krancha bird or a heron with an arrow while the heron was in the midst of mating. And completely unlike Valmiki, he uttered a curse he cursed the hunter. Here's another painting indicating there's the heron with the arrow in it, and then there's his mate, the female heron. So he says to the hunter, these are different artists depicting the same scene. Oh, hunter, it's in Anushtup meter, a certain meter that wasn't popular or wasn't so well known at the time. Oh, hunter, because you have killed the male bird and separated it from its companion when they were approaching the peak of their passion, you will be condemned for all ages to come. May you never find peace of mind for endless years. Pretty heavy. So the commentators describe this is purposeful. It's an expression of grief. Valmiki, is experiencing grief at this sight that he just saw, the sight of this Krancha bird in the midst of mating. He was shot with an arrow. So shoka, and Bhardraj was present, but he didn't say anything. He heard the message spoken by his guru. But this verse is later taken by the commentators, particularly the Sri Vaishnava commentators. They consider this particular verse as the Mangalacharana verse. So we know something about Mangalacharana. We recite commonly at the beginning of some program or some class or some recitation, Mangalacharana verses. So invocation verses. And so this verse is summarizing the mood and the message of the entire Ramayana. So he was very surprised what came out of his mouth. And he was contemplating, where did this come from? That he's not prone to anger. He has control of his mind and senses, and anger and lust and greed and the enemies of the living entity. He is beyond all of that. But here it came out. So in the this is a B.G. Sharma painting, and it's pretty clear. You can see in the background, there's the hunter and the bird, and then in the upper left, that's Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma came while Valmiki was sitting in his ashram composing, because that's what he was. He was an author, a writer. And Brahma revealed that he inspired Saraswati, the goddess of speech, to speak this verse through Valmiki. And after explaining where that utterance came from, he then disclosed the entire Ramayana. I reveal to you the entire Ramayana. In fact, here's the verse from Valmiki Ramayana. The incidents pertaining to the sagacious Ram, together with Lakshman, Sita, Bharata, and the Rakshasas, their deeds and their thoughts, which are unknown or known to everybody, and even not known to you, will be revealed to you by my grace. So Brahma is powerful, and he's received the Mula Ramayana. He knows it, and now he's revealing everything that's in Mula Ramayana, whether he's heard it, seen it, or not. He'll know it. Trikalagya. In other words, past, present, future. It's a very special personality, a chosen personality, a qualified personality. So he then set himself to work composing 24,000 verses in the same Anushtup meter, 4 lines each with 8 syllables. And that's the structure of Ramayana. That's the background of the Ramayana. So in this Ramayana, there's the narration of Ram's appearance, along with other things. So we're going to focus on his appearance. There's a nice photograph of Ayodhya in recent times, very nice photograph. And here's another showing the river that flows by the city of Ayodhya. And various domes of temples and places of worship and so forth and so on, parks. And it's a very... How many here have been to Ayodhya? Oh, that's good. Maybe someday we'll go together to Ayodhya. What do you think? Because I took a yatra already to Ayodhya. It was very nice. It was very nice. You feel, just like Vrindavan, you feel there's something special about this place because it's the eternal place of Ramchandra's pastimes. So in Ayodhya, he had a father. Of course, he wasn't born yet. According to the description, the chronological description, he had 3 principal wives. And those principal wives, in Valmiki Ramayana, there's details of how each one of those 3 became his wife. And he ruled in Ayodhya, he ruled the world for 60,000 years because it's a previous age when people lived that long. And he ruled the earth for such a long period of time. However, there was some misfortune. As very elevated as he was, there was misfortune. There's always something. And if it's not that something, it's 10 other somethings. It's always something. So during his lifetime, Parashuram was present. And Parashuram had a revenge mood because some Kshatriyas killed his father, beheaded his father, Jamadagni. And so he took his chopper and went here and there many times. It is described, in Valmiki Ramayana, it's described that he had, in addition to these 3 wives, how many? 350. And how it happened, it's not in Valmiki Ramayana, but the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas explain, it's because when Parashuram was on tour to chop kings, he had a policy. He wouldn't approach, because he was too disgusted, if some king was naked, surrounded by ladies, he'd leave that person alone. But another case was when someone was in the midst of a marriage, he'd leave that person alone. Parashuram happened to come to Ayodhya 350 times. So that was how Dasharatha had 353 wives. That's a lot of wives. And with these 353 wives, there were no sons. And it's a desire and a duty of a king to provide an heir for the world to become the next king. And the next king becomes the eldest son. There was no son. So he was very concerned. The citizens understood his mood. So he had a very dear set of ministers. One of those set of ministers was Sumantra. Sumantra was known both as being his chariot driver and his minister, one of his chief ministers. So he had this idea. Maybe some brahmanas, most qualified brahmanas, can perform an Ashvamedha yajna and a Putra Kameshta yajna. And if they do those 2 yajnas, then perhaps, by good fortune, I'll be able to have a son. So he shared that with Sumantra privately. Privately, Sumantra thought, this is very good. I'd like to invite all the wise personalities in the entire kingdom, which is the world, to come and offer their suggestion. Is this a good idea? So there's a long list of who was invited, and they all felt it was a great idea. Ashvamedha Yajna. And so once that response was given by the sages, Sumantra then requested some private audience with his king, with his master. And he explained, this is something confidential, but I heard that not so long ago in the assembly of sages, Sanat Kumar narrated a story about the birth of your sons before it happened. And not only he narrated it in a previous yuga, in Satya Yuga, he narrated the same story. And here's the story. Would you like to hear the story? Yes, I'd like to hear the story. The story is, there will be a great sage, it hadn't happened yet, named Rishyashringa, and he will grant 3 boons to Dasharatha. The first of those 3 boons, he'll have a successful Ashvamedha Yajna. 4 sons of immeasurable prowess will be born, and in the end, he'll ascend to heaven. No, that's right. It's in Valmiki Ramayana, this discussion. And so Dasharatha was very inspired. How do we find Rishyashringa? So then there's this very long, really long description of Rishyashringa. So Rishyashringa was the grandson of Kashyapa Muni. Kashyapa Muni is one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma. So Kashyapa Muni, while meditating on the sunlight, a son was produced. The son he named Vibandaka. And Vibandaka was very renounced, super renounced. And so austere that Indra thought, uh-oh, you know what Indra does. Maybe he wants to take over my kingdom. So he sent someone to entice him. And Vibandaka said, leave me alone. I know who you are. She didn't say anything, but I know who you are. I know what you're up to. The answer is no, leave me alone. And just so that she would leave him alone, he left some seed, meaning some male semen, and she took that semen and gave the semen to a deer. And after some time, the female deer produced a child, and that child was Rishyashringa. But Rishyashringa had the body of a human and the horns of a deer. But Vibandaka didn't know until one day in his ashram, the female deer, the mother, came and got his attention and walked a few steps and got his attention and walked a few steps, and he understood, she wants me to see something. So the something that he was supposed to see was his child, born of her. So when he saw the child and saw the whole situation, he understood, and he accepted the responsibility of raising Rishyashringa as his child. And then comes this very lengthy, very complicated, narration of how to get Rishyashringa away from Vibandaka, because he was very watchful and very protective and very this and very that, and so it was an intrigue and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's very lengthy, and I'm not going to go into it because it's not really the main point. Eventually, something happened where Rishyashringa, was enticed to leave Vibandaka's ashram, and he became the husband of a young lady, and he and the young lady were given shelter by a friend of Dasharatha. You know the name of the friend of Dasharatha? Ramapada was the person's name. That was the name of a dear friend. It's a long story without the long story. So Rishyashringa was there, and then one fine day, Dasharatha said, "Would you allow your son-in-law to come perform a yajna?" And so he consented. And so preparation was made for these two. Putra Kameshti, Putra means son, so a yajna whereby a son would be born, and an Ashvamedha yajna. 1 whole year transpired in such a big deal that just to prepare for the yajna. And on the final day, when the last of the mantras was recited, a figure appeared from the sacrificial fire holding an urn or a pot. And inside the pot was payasam, or a special beverage, which was the fruit or the end purpose of the whole yajna. Meanwhile, while this event was occurring, that the yajna was being completed, Valmiki Ramayana describes that the demigods, they also prayed to the Lord to send, not just so that Dasharatha would have a son, but to counteract the oppressive influence of Ravana. The demigods wanted that. So they're offering their prayers to Lord Vishnu. Please relieve us from this burden. So there's another painting, the demigods. You can tell who the demigods are by the painting. And Lord Vishnu consented that he would appear. And so, sure enough, the arrangement that was planned and confirmed in advance before it happened by Sanat Kumar, this personality that appeared from the yajna gave the pot, the urn, the payasam, to King Dasharatha. So now King Dasharatha has his 3 principal queens, and so he decided to divide the payasam in the following way. Half went to Kaushalya, and half of the remaining half went to Sumitra, which left at 1/4. So, and 1/8 of the original went to Kaikeyi, and then after some thought, he gave another portion to Sumitra. So that finished the payasam. And each of them accepted. This was the divine arrangement confirmed by all the great sages and so forth and so on. So in due course of time, these children were born. The first of the children, this shows has twins. There's the yajna in the foreground of the painting. But Kaushalya gave birth first, and Ramachandra was the first of those 4 children, and so forth. So this is the little summary of the narration of the appearance of Lord Ramachandra, that there's volumes and volumes and volumes of intrigue in between. Mahabharata and Ramayana both are really expert at spinning your head with details and difficulties and overcoming the difficulties and then the next difficulty. And so it's very attractive. Now, just today I met with a nice devotee couple, elderly devotee couple, and the wife was describing from the time she was a little girl, maybe 3 years old, she would sit at the feet of her grandmother. The grandmother would have everybody sit around, and she'd read from Ramayana. This happened every day, spoon-fed from grandma, the whole story of Ramayana, and she heard it again and heard it again, and never got tired of hearing it again. and went inside. That's Vedic culture. The lady's a very cultured lady, and she has Ramachandra and Ramayana within her heart. The details she doesn't remember, in part because when you get older, something happens to memory. But Ramachandra's in the heart of this nice devotee and her nice husband. So she was doing most of the talking. He was just nodding and listening. But, meaning something similar in his life. I was curious because many of us are Krishna Bhaktas. So I was curious, in Vrindavan, how do they honor Ram Navami? The thought occurred, and I just asked somebody, and presto, it's online, and they download. So I'm going to show you some paintings, or excuse me, photographs, today's photographs of Radharaman and Ram Navami. And he's a dapper dresser, I'll tell you. The pujaris are very expert in how they address the deity. So this is a very nice painting. There's Sita and Ram, and the Vanras, and the four brothers by his side. At the bottom, there are devotees offering their prostrated obeisances to the personality of God, including Jatayu and all of them. So here's the Mangalarti Darshan of Radharaman. Now I didn't put this. I should. The evening before Ram Navami he was dressed in green, bright green, dark green, and then notice there's no peacock feather. This is this morning, Mangalarti. All the other photographs of the deity, he's wearing, you'll see, because there are other ones, he's wearing a peacock feather because that's his mark. But there's no peacock feather. There's something else on top of his head, a very interesting crown, silver crown. And here's the evening darshan. There he has his peacock feather, and very nicely attired, and details and details and details. They have, I haven't been, but I've spoken to devotees who have seen the way they keep the paraphernalia. There's practically a different outfit for every day of the year, and different ornaments, and ankle bells, and different flutes, and many, many, many different details and details and details. And the pujaris are so into it, and there is time, I think I'll do it. The installation of Krishna Balaram happened on Ram Navami 51 years ago, and for the installation of the deity, there's a system I learned from observing what was going on. They built a platform in the middle of the courtyard. Those of you who've been to Vrindavan, there's steps down, and then down there's a courtyard. And Vishvambar Goswami was the chief priest. Vishvambar Goswami was a dear friend of Srila Prabhupada and the chief priest of Radharaman. And he was selected because everybody respected him. There were many, 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 there's ego, even amongst devotees, elevated devotees. But there was no animosity, no competition, no nothing. He was respected by everybody. So he arranged everything in such a way, we were observing. We were having kirtan, but I was also observing how they do this procedure. in 4 different directions, different yagyas and different mantras according to the 4 different Vedas and person's expert. And he was like the referee. If they made some mistakes, he'd catch it and have them go back and do it again. Because that's one of the rules. If you make a mistake in anything, you go back and do it again until you do it right. And it took hours. It took most of the day, this procedure. What to set up took another 2.5 or 2 days to set everything up. But then the actual installation was really wonderful, really wonderful. And Krishna Balaram were installed, the Abhishek and everything. Really wonderful. And as you can see, the place was packed, inside, outside, and all around. So, very special event. Very special event. On Ram Navami Day, in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was a genius. Krishna Balaram. So I'm looking at the clock, and according to the hands of the clock, we have 8 minutes. So I can easily say some other things, but I think it might be nice to pause and see if any of you would like to discuss some points, particularly in relation to the appearance of Ramachandra. If any of the other topics that we discussed before this evening, that's fine. But if you'd like to raise a question, please.
Wonderful lecture, and it is really good. So Maharaj, about this picture, 51 years ago. So how far you are, like how many years you have traveled when you took this picture, when you were there?
You're speaking with the microphone in your hand and moving your hand.
Sorry.
So try to not do that.
Sorry for that.
So you want to know how old I was when this happened? That's what you're asking?
Maharaj, like how far you are in the journey of Krishna consciousness?
It's off topic,
Sorry.
but I'll answer because I'm in the picture and I showed it twice. I became involved in in an ISKCON temple in 1970, the summer of 1970, straight from college to the Boston Temple. So this is 1975. That's like 6 years later. And by 6 years later, I was already, up to here in the various responsibilities and services and things, full-time living as a Hare Krishna devotee in an ashram. By that time, it was New York. And did lots of different services. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I've all.
In Vrindavan, there are many deities of Hanuman. And it's a place of Krishna, but there's a lot of Hanuman.
Why not?
In Vrindavan, so the devotees worshipping Hanuman in Vrindavan to attain Lord Ramachandra, or are they attaining only to attain Krishna?
What do you think? What's Hanuman going to do? Ram. So one can be a Ram Bhakta in Vrindavan. And he wants to give them Ram. He's a manifestation of Guru, just as Lakshman is, Hanuman is. more specifically Lakshmana is, but they do the same thing. They're representatives, intimate representatives of Ram. So you have to look inside the heart of those people that live in Vrindavan worshipping Hanuman. But, you know, we know what Hanuman wants. No question. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Maharaj, when you show the picture of Dasharatha Maharaj has 350 wives, so in Ramayana it mentioned that Dasharatha Maharaj had 60,000 wives. So
He lived for 60,000 years, but he didn't have 60,000 wives. He ruled for 60,000 years.
morning I was listening a lecture which was presented by one of our godbrothers. So he was referring from Ramayana that Dasharatha Maharaj has
Oh, Kamba Ramayana. You know, you go to Kamba Ramayana, you'll find something different than Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana is very specific, 350. Kamba Ramayana has some other, you know, I'm not saying it's to be rejected or disrespected or something, but 350 plus 3, Valmiki. Okay? Do you know how many different Ramayanas there are? Not too many, but so many. And besides the authentic ones, there's ones that aren't. So just even amongst the authentic. Okay? You sure? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. At the beginning of the class, when you were mentioning about the origin of Ramayana, and you were talking about the first verse and how Valmiki spoke it, I just wondered what happened to the hunter? Did he have
What happened to which?
the hunter?
That's a nice question.
Because Valmiki didn't mean to speak it, and it came from Saraswati. Was the curse actually
Yeah,
correct?
should we go back to the curse? Sure. It doesn't say what happened. O hunter, because you have killed the male bird and separated it from its companion when they were approaching the peak of their passion, you will be condemned for all ages to come. May you never find peace of mind for endless years. So it doesn't. I don't know what happened for those endless years and for all ages to come. Likely he's not a Chiranjiva. He didn't stay in the hunter's body for a long period of time. He went from one body to the next body to the next body with no peace of mind.
That was my question. Thank
That's
you.
your question? Okay. I see the clock says we have 3 minutes, and I understand there's a contract and we have to be very strict with time, and Joy can take one more question if there is one. Okay.
The question is Hanuman Jiva?
Yeah. You want him to be Vishnu? No. Jiva. That's the question.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay. Who would like to make our closing comments so we can wrap up and keep our schedule? Because the clock says we're supposed to end. Don't read it. Speak without reading it. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj, for wonderful wisdom you have shared, the appearance of Ramayana and so on. So we show our gratitude by loudly chanting one time.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. His Holiness Ramdas Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.